What's up, guys? Today we're going to do a video a little different than what I usually do. Today we're going to do a response video to a video that a YouTuber called Avallone did. So let's just go through, we're going to go through a video, The Problem with Islam. Now before I get started, I just want to say that like the only other response video that I've done so far on this channel, I subscribe to Avallone. I watch almost all of his videos. I think he's a really funny kid. You know, he really makes me laugh with some of the shit that he says. And his critique of feminism and the radical left wing in general is spot on. So I would agree with him in most of his videos. But for some reason, when he comes to Islam, he just completely loses the rationality and the logic that he uses in his other videos, and somehow he just completely loses it whenever he makes videos about Islam. I don't think he's a bad kid. I don't think he's doing it to be mean or to be oppressive on purpose, because these views that he is espousing are often used to oppress Muslims. I don't think he's doing it on purpose. I think he just doesn't know what he's talking about. He's a young kid. He probably doesn't interact with Muslims a lot. He probably hasn't gone to a mosque or talked to a imam about anything. He gets all his research from Islam from the internet, which, you know, is so factually true all the time, right? You know, so that's all. I just want to offer a counterpoint to his points that he makes in his video, because I think most of the people he interacts with his response videos are like complete fucking retards that can't articulate their points very well, which is why, you know, he makes those funny videos. But I don't think he comes across someone that can explain the counterpoint in a logical, rational way. All they say is, well, you're racist. Again, I would agree with him. You can't be racist towards Muslims because Muslim isn't a race, but so let's just get started, shall we?
The problem with Islam. Problem number 1, the lies from the left. Leftists, social justice warriors, and progressives are already well-known liars, and they are constantly lying to.
Quick jump in right here. He is true that leftists and progressive are well-known liars. It's been well documented for years now. What he also leaves out are that right-wingers are also known habitual liars, pathological liars. They lie. Both the right and the left lie about almost everything. They just make up complete fucking bullshit and present it in the mainstream media. So Avallone is a he voted for Donald Trump. So as usual, like, oh, these pop-ups are killing me, man. Got to get a new pop-up blocker. Anyway, so once again, each side is usually accurate in their critique of the other side. But when it comes to looking at their own side and look at the own problems that they have and looking at the liars and the hypocrites and the bad people on their side of the aisle, somehow they just lose all objectivity, and it's all the other guy's fault. It's not my fault, it's the other guy's fault. So he's right when he says that progressives and leftists are known liars, but his own party that he voted for are also known liars. He doesn't bring that up. He just, no, that's not important. We're good. We're the good party. It's the other guy that's liars.
Us about the ideology of Islam in order to defend it from criticism.
Okay, so another problem, he's saying that only leftist and progressives defend Islam, or lie to defend Islam. Well, first of all, they're not the only ones that defend Islam. Decent people across the political spectrum defend Islam because it is a religion. We have freedom of religion in this country, and I would defend anyone's right to practice whatever religion they want, even if I don't personally agree with the tenets. That's why I'm not a Muslim. That's why I'm not a Christian, because I just don't believe in that stuff. But if someone else wants to and they're not bothering me, then go ahead. And I don't have to lie about the ideology to defend it. All I have to do is point out rational, logical points and take the verses right from the Quran and from the other things that Muslims do. Like, I don't lie about anything. All I'm doing is saying how it is and why he's wrong. So when he says that the only defenders of Islam have to lie about it, no, they don't.
The biggest lie we hear is that Islam is a religion of peace.
It can be. Islam can be almost anything you want because there are so many verses and you can twist it to mean almost anything you want. So in many Muslims' way of practicing it, yes, it is a religion of peace. Just like many Christians interpret their Christian ideology, and they are very peaceful. They're very helpful in the community. They are very nice people. Excuse me. You know, but there are also a lot of Christians who twist Christian ideology and the Christian verses in the Bible to kill innocent civilians all across the world. No one wants to talk about that. No one wants to talk about Christian terrorism. The Christian terrorism that happened in the U.S. military in the wars against Iraq, Afghanistan, and to a lesser extent all the drone strikes on civilians in Somalia, Yemen, Nigeria, Somalia. But we're not going to talk about that. There are also some Muslims who, yes, use Islam to defend their extremist radical views and to kill innocent people, to commit terrorism. I am not going to deny that. I am not going to say that there are no Muslim terrorists. All I'm saying is that there are terrorists of every single religion, and the fact that you are consistently hammering on Islam, but yet you never criticize Hindu terrorism, for example, or Buddhist terrorism. I had a whole video, my last video was about Buddhist terrorism. And people just, it's not part of their narrative. That's the thing. Hunter's narrative is that all other religions are fine, except Christianity is the best, that's why he's a Christian. But Islam is the worst. It's the only one that commits terrorism on a massive scale. Well, it's like, no, there's not. Like I said, there are statistically there are a lot less Hindus and Buddhists and Taoists, for example, whatever religion. So there's going to be less terrorists from that religion in general because there's less people to pull from. So the fact that they are Islam and Christian are the biggest religions, there are going to be more Christian or Muslim terrorists. And does that mean that Christianity and Islam are more radical, more bloodthirsty than Buddhism or Hinduism? No. If Hinduism had billions of followers, then yeah, there'd be a lot of Hindu terrorists too. There are a decent amount right now because Hindu is a decently sized religion, but it's not as big as Christian and Islam. So he makes no sense. We're 45 seconds into the video, and he just keeps on pointing out these points that make absolutely no sense. And all you have to do is look at the conflicts around the world, look around the crimes that other people from other religions have committed. His videos just doesn't make any sense. Islam can be peaceful. Islam can be very warlike, depending on how you interpret certain verses and use it for your own good. Islam can be peaceful. Christianity can be peaceful. I mean, this is not fucking rocket science. How many times did I say that, honestly, throughout my whole videos? This is not rocket science.
For one thing, this is blatant hypocrisy, since Islam goes against virtually everything progressives claim to stand for, yet they are the ones shouting this pathetic slogan in their shrill voices to defend Islam.
No, Islam is not incompatible with progressivism or liberalism in general, because almost all the Muslims I know vote Democrat almost all the time. So they don't see an inconsistency. They don't see a clash of ideals between the way they practice Islam and liberalism or progressivism in general. They don't have a problem with it. They practice both ideologies perfectly fine. They don't see an inconsistency, or they don't say, well, I got to pick one over the other. So again, that statement is wrong. Islam is not completely contrary to liberalism or progressivism. You can interpret there are other Muslims who, yes, I agree, their way of practicing Islam is against progressivism and liberalism, but think that it's not all of them. There's no point in saying these blanket statements, because all you have to do is point out one example and your statement is null and void. So you're saying that Islam is incompatible with liberalism and progressivism. So all I have to do is point out one Muslim who practices both Islam and is a liberal, because you make absolute statements. There are very few things that is all, 100%, never, every single time. You know, all these absolute, you make all these statements, all you need is one example, and then you're like, okay, well, some Muslims are incompatible with their religion and liberalism or progressivism, but others aren't.
And secondly, this false slogan of peace is constantly crammed down our throats to try and force people to believe this violent, hateful religion is somehow peaceful and not responsible for the thousands of lives it's stolen and the thousands of terror attacks done in the name of Islam.
It's just as bloodthirsty or violent as any other religion. Once again, he has a double standard for Islam versus every other religion, which makes me think that his views come from bigotry and ignorance, because the only difference that he has in these judgments of religion is the actual religion. So Christians kill each other all the time in America and in Europe and across the world, specifically in the United States and Europe, because that's where most of them are. Actually, there's a lot of Christians in South America too. South America, North America, Europe, tons of Christians kill each other all the fucking time. By the thousands, the tens of thousands, every single year. Yet he doesn't think Christianity is a bloodthirsty, murderous religion. But yet somehow when Muslims do it, oh, that means their ideology, their religion is bloodthirsty. Double standard. Exact same stats, tens of thousands, if not, like, I don't know the exact numbers. It takes forever to compile kills by religion, or it's impossible to know the religion of every single person who commits a murder. But you have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people killed by Christians and Muslims every single year. He looks at Christianity, his own religion, and his bias shows like, no, that's a good religion, because those people, they aren't good Christians. They aren't following the Bible the way I follow the Bible. But these Muslims, no. They're following the Quran. Here, these bloodthirsty verses are taken out of context, and I have no historical knowledge about when these verses were given or in what situation. So that means, yeah, Islam is a bloodthirsty, murderous religion. But all these other Christians killing tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of other people every single year, no, that doesn't mean Christianity is bloodthirsty.
I find it hard to believe there are actually people who get defensive or offended over me stating the simple yet obvious fact. Islam is not a religion of peace.
Because you have double standards. I'm not offended that you say that, because I'm not a Muslim. I don't care what you say. You can say whatever you want. The thing is, all I'm doing is pointing out your double standard in this statement. If you don't believe Islam is a religion of peace, then using your same logic, Christianity is not a religion of peace. Hinduism is not a religion of peace. Buddhism is not a religion of peace, because every single religion has their bloodthirsty extremist fanatics who kill innocent people on purpose. But the fact is, you don't say that. You have a double standard. You say that for one religion, but the other religion that kills innocent people all the time too, that people use the tenets, the verses from these texts to justify their killing of innocent people. Somehow, I don't see any video of the problem with Hinduism, the problem with Christianity. I don't see you making videos about that.
And sadly, I don't think it ever will be. But why? Am I suggesting that Islam cannot be reformed, or that simply following Islam makes you instantly susceptible to violence? No, not exactly. But I am suggesting that Islam is inherently violent due to the Islamic holy book, the Quran. There are over 109 verses in the Quran that call for the war against non-believers for the sake of Islamic rule, spewing violent rhetoric everywhere. We can already see how these violent verses directly play into the violence that has already occurred in the name of Islam. Quran 47:4. When you meet unbelievers, smite their necks.
Yes, it is true that there are verses in the Quran that say kill the non-believers. But yet, these are in specific situations. The most common one I hear is Muhammad saying kill all the non-believers. And then if you had any historical knowledge of when he was specifically saying that, or if you actually knew Arabic to read them in its original text in Arabic and not the English translation, which loses a lot of context because the language is so different, you would know that he is talking about a specific fortress that they were about to attack, who had betrayed them, and now he is going to war against them. So he wasn't saying kill all non-believers across the entire world, wherever you find them. No, he was talking about these specific people in this specific instance that they were at war at, that those people betrayed them and now they're going to attack them because they betrayed them. But of course, Hunter I'm assuming doesn't know any Arabic, has limited knowledge of the Middle Eastern history. He might have taken it in high school and college, but obviously he has no idea what he's talking about, because if you studied Middle Eastern history like I did, that was my fucking concentration in my bachelor's, you would know that he was talking about these specific people. He wasn't saying kill all non-believers, but ignorant Muslims like ISIS, for example, twist that verse and say, yep, the Quran says to kill all non-believers, so we're just going to go and we're going to be total fucking assholes to everyone. He doesn't know what he's talking about. You can't just swoop in without any knowledge or very limited knowledge of the religion and the region and when the religion was spread, and then you read a translation of something and you don't even bother reading the original text, and you're just like, yep, I know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, and again, he's not doing it to be mean. He's not doing it out of spite or out of hate. He's not a hateful person. He just doesn't know what he's talking about. He honestly thinks that Islam is a murderous religion. And he thinks he's doing good by making these videos criticizing it. But he just doesn't know what he's talking about. He flat out does not know what he's talking about. So yes, there are verses in the Quran that say to kill non-believers, but there are also verses in the Bible that say to kill non-believers too. Let's just pull one up right here. If your very own brother, or your son or daughter, or wife you love, or your closest friends, and secretly entices you, saying, let us go and worship other gods, you must certainly put them to death. Show them no pity. Do not spare or shield them. You must certainly put them to death. Right here. It's a Deuteronomy 13. Right there in the Bible, Christians can use this verse to justify killing non-believers because it says right there. And that's just the first one I found. But there are dozens of other verses saying almost the exact same thing, just like the Quran. Again, double standard. Here is a religious text, the Bible, that has many verses that can be twisted out of context and twisted to justify almost anything, for example, and say, yep, this verse says to kill all non-believers, so that means Christianity is not religion of peace. But Hunter doesn't have a problem with that. He's a Christian. He doesn't follow this. Good Christians don't follow the Bible literally. Otherwise, Hunter would be running around killing everyone who doesn't believe the same God he does if he was following the Bible right to the letter. So he doesn't have a problem with that. He doesn't have a problem being a Christian. He doesn't think Christianity is a bloodthirsty religion. But here, Islam, exact same situation, a text that has verses that are taken out of context to kill all non-believers. No, it is a religion of hatred. It's not a religion of peace. All I had to do, 5 seconds, Hunter, 5 seconds of Google search of Bible verses justifying killing. You can get all the hits you want, all the verses you want.
Shockingly, what do we see occurring now? Christians, or non-believers, beheaded by Islamic extremists for refusing to convert to Islam in the year of 2014.
We can do the exact same thing with Christianity. We can take that verse that I just pointed out. We can see Christians shooting each other up, blowing each other up, drones striking innocent civilians, bombing innocent civilians, just killing, just a complete bloodbath. And we're not talking about the Crusades. We're talking about things that happen every single year. Every single year, Christians do all this horrible things. So I can take the exact same thing. I can make a video called The Problem of Christianity, and I can put that biblical verse up just like you put up that Quranic verse, and then I can say, look, all these Christians, they do know all these bad things all across the world. They're just killing hundreds of thousands of people. They're making people suffer all across the world. So that means Christianity is a bloodthirsty religion. Now you see the hypocrisy, you see the double standard, you see why your video doesn't make any sense. So in conclusion, I'm not saying that one religion is right or one religion is wrong. I think actually all of them are wrong, that's why I don't practice anything. And I'm not saying that Islam is right and Christianity is wrong, or Islam is better than Christianity, or that Christianity is bad. Christians are fine. I have a ton of Christian friends. I grew up Christian. That is perfectly fine for you to practice your faith the way you see fit. But the minute you infringe on other people's rights, that's when it becomes a problem. These views that Hunter has are very dangerous because they contribute to the suffering and the oppression of Muslims all around the world. There are people in higher places of government who also hold these views, and no one's refuted on them, no one's taken them to task on their ignorant views, and that is why you have soldiers when you invade Iraq just killing, slaughtering Iraqi civilians by the thousands because they view them as subhuman. They view them as ignorant, bloodthirsty non-believers. So it's okay to kill them. So that is why these views must be countered in videos like this, because they are dangerous and they infringe on other people's human rights. You can preach all you want about certain things, but the minute you preach views that will infringe on other people's human rights, that's when I have to step in and say, no, you can't say that because it is infringing on other people's rights. And I'm a libertarian. I'm all about human rights. If you're espousing views that lead to people losing their right to life, for example, we're just talking about straight killings. We're not talking about Christians giving billions of dollars to bloodthirsty dictatorial regimes like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nigeria, Somalia, for example. You know, you talk about Islamic support of financial support of terrorism, but you don't talk about Christian support of terrorism. All these Christians in all these high levels of government throughout the United States and Europe, giving billions of dollars every single year to bloodthirsty regimes who infringe on their citizens' human rights. You can talk about how Christians support terrorism. You don't talk about that at all. The religion doesn't matter. You have a double standard. But as soon as Islamic politician somewhere across the world gives money to Hamas or Hezbollah, then suddenly that's Islamic support of terrorism. Again, all I'm doing is pointing out double standards that you have towards different religions.